Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So before we get into today's video, I want to say a super huge thank you to Benjamin Dakoski. Apologies if I am pronouncing that incorrectly. This is an absolutely amazing looking army. It's heavily converted. I don't actually see very many normal Imperial Guard models in here. It looks like there's a whole mix of dust tactics and the old... I can't remember what they were called, I believe they were like Dreamforge, or like Stormtroopers. Then you've got the X-Scorn, or Eigscorn Stormtroopers. Just loads of different cool, awesome minis that look really good as stand-ins for an Imperial Guard. Absolutely fantastic. Really shows what you can do with third-party minis and how they still fit in well in the 40k universe. You know, you see that picture of the army versus those Ultramarines. Thank you very much for sending these pictures in, Ben. If anyone else has any pictures that they want to send in, please go on my Facebook page and post them on there. If they are cool, then I will use them, and if they are well painted, then I will use them. So yeah. Anyway, let's go on with the video. So today we are going to be discussing deep striking. So one of the biggest mistakes I see newer players making, or people who are new to an army making, is their mistakes in deep striking. How they deep strike their units. In one of my most recent battle reports, where I was using my Auto Malleus versus the Auto Xenos, the mistakes I made in my deep striking cost me the game. I could have easily won that game. Easily won it. And I lost it because I didn't deep strike properly. Basically, this video is good because it obviously we're doing Sion videos at the moment here as well, so it really covers that. But it also covers any other army that has access to good deep striking units. There are two ways to deep strike, okay? But it's very, very important that you do each way correctly. The first way is the one that most people go for and what most people do wrongly, okay? The first thing that people do when they think about deep striking is striking deep behind enemy lines. They think I'm gonna take my Terminators, I'm going to take my Sions, I'm going to deep strike them on this flank. That's going to like open up a whole new front. It's going to be great. Absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, that doesn't tend to work so well. That is a lot more high risk, high reward. Well, just a lot high risk really. The problem with, especially if you're using lone units or... yeah, the problem with doing it is most of the time people do it with like a single unit of Terminators, for example. And what happens is they deep strike their single unit of Terminators away, unsupported by the rest of the army. They'll kill a few things, inevitably fail the charge. You know, more times out of 10 you're going to fail the charge. And then that's it. And then they get killed. Because it's 5 Terminators, it's not that hard to do. You can kill that with some spare firepower. You can kill that with a couple of squads of guardsmen. You know, with a couple of plasma guns and a couple of autocannons. You know. So, it's not that hard to deal with those lone deep striking units. If you're going to do a lone deep striking unit, you have to assume, because it's away, unsupported by the rest of the army, it's going to die. Okay? And because of that, you must then instantly in your mind go, right, this is a suicide unit. It has to drop down, do as much damage as possible for it to earn its points back, hopefully do more damage than it's worth, and then it can die and I don't care. A very, very, very good example of this is Sion Command Squads. Okay? Sion Command... This is one of the reasons why Sions got nerfed hard, was because they were too good at suicide dropping. They were too points efficient. But even with the changes to plasma gun points changes for Sions, even with that, they're still incredibly good at suicide deep striking. Okay? Because what you do with a Sion command squad is you take 4 plasma guns on it. Okay? Take 4 plasma guns. That only comes to 88 points, I believe, off the top of my head. 88 points. For when you deep strike in rapid fire range. That's 8 shots. Any 6s you get generate an additional shot. Take 2 of those. Take 2 of those squads. Maybe even 3, but if you're really suiciding properly, you take 2 of those squads. You put a Tempesta Prime with a command rod next to them. And for the cool price of about 200 points, you have 9 models which will, guaranteed, delete whatever you put them at. Because you have 16 shots, you can overcharge the plasma, you can reroll 1s to hit, 6s generate more hits, and you just destroy everything. And then you die. Then those men die, but it doesn't matter. They've done their job. They have done a surgical strike. Okay? Scions are incredibly good at doing surgical strikes. On the other hand, a lot of armies have units which can deep strike, which aren't so good at it. Which aren't really designed for being a surgical strike unit. A good example of that is Terminators. Okay? Terminators are the quintessential, the classic, the traditional deep striking unit. Okay? They have always been able to do it. It's always been their thing. When someone mentions to you deep striking, the first things that you'll think about is Terminators. Maybe not the first thing, but one of the first things you'll think about is Terminators. Terminators are deep striking. However, people always do it wrong. Because Terminators only come armed with storm bolters and assault cannons. And if you're very crazy, you might take a cyclone missile launcher. Okay. But that isn't going to, at most, 5 Terminators are going to drop in and do 16 Stormbolter shots and then 6 assault cannon shots, 22 shots. Most of which are just bolters, which won't do a lot. And then they'll die. And your 211 point unit, if I remember correctly, your 200 odd point unit, same price as those Scions. Think about that. 5 Terminators versus 9 Scions. Similar number of wounds. But guess what? Scions come in and rape whatever, absolutely just obliterate it. Just crush it. Whatever they're targeting. Terminators come in, tickle a little bit with some Stormbolter shots, and then die. So why would you ever take Terminators? Because in my opinion, Terminators are absolutely fantastic. You don't take Terminators to throw them out on a flank. You take Terminators as a support unit. This is the most effective I've ever used my Terminators. I'm tempted to get 5 more and run them with my Black Tide. Maybe even 10 more and run them with my Black Tide. Okay? And the reason for this is, thinking behind this is Terminators, what they're really good at doing is rather than deep striking out away from your army, it's deep striking in amongst your army. So imagine this. You're a Space Marine player, you're on the attack. Okay? Maybe you've got some squads and rhinos. Some tactical squads and rhinos. Classic Space Marine unit, Pardon me. You're always going to have a rhino or a razorback. You're always going to have some infantry pushing forward in those transports. You're making a general attack. But guess what starts happening? You lose a rhino or 2. Your infantry are out on the field. They're pounding up the field, but they're struggling a little bit because they need reinforcements. In comes the Terminators, 10 Terminators. Suddenly, your 20 to 30 tactical marines or infantry, whatever it was, that were struggling to make it the field, have just had a hell of a lot of support. They've just had 5 to 10 Terminators deep strike in. Those Terminators have unleashed a relatively decent amount of, not a terrible amount of firepower, don't get me wrong. You know, those Terminators with assault cannon and storm bolters, they still put out a decent amount of firepower. They've deep struck in and they've blasted something. But guess what? Because they weren't out on their own, they're probably in range of your captain and your lieutenant. So they're now deep striking in, 6 rerolling ones to hit, rerolling ones to wound, absolutely smashing it. Much, much better result. The attack starts to regain momentum. We've talked about momentum before. And you have been able to force your opponent to react to you. He's got to react to those termies. And the best thing is if you're... So basically how to put this is if you are either going to deep strike as a suicide unit or you're going to deep strike as a shooty support unit. Why would you deep strike those units? Because if you have them out on the field, they can be targeted and killed. When they deep strike in, they come in fresh, able to fight undamaged. Best example for this, Dark Elder Ravagers, one of the most competitive unit choices at the moment. Any competitive Dark Elder list will take 3 Ravagers. Each Ravager is going to have a whole bunch of Disintegrators, and it's going to put all 3 of them in reserve, because he can do that for 3 command points. He's just going to do it. He's going to put 3 of them in reserve. And then, turn 1, he'll deep strike them in. He'll deep strike them in his own fucking deployment zone. He doesn't care. Ravagers are a long range support unit. They've got 36-inch range, I think, on Disintegrators. They've got a long range anyway. Well, guess what? His Ravagers, if he deployed them on the beginning of the game, might have got seized on, might not have gone first. First thing I'm going to target is those Ravagers. First chance I get. By deep striking them in, he's kept them safe, and he's supported his attack, and his opponent now has to react to his deep striking reserves, and not be proactive and take them out at the beginning of the game. So there you go. That's how you deep strike. You either 100% suicide and go for the most points efficient damage dealing unit you can do, aka Sion command squads, or you take deep striking units that can support your general push. They come in amongst your army fresh to the fight, and they help you regain that momentum. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for listening, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.